Good evening. It's a little bit light out. It's just about gone, but certainly a noticeable difference for me. From previous streams. Welcome to episode 30. Episode 30. So now, around 180 hours of this tripe littering the internet, already bloated with tripe. Hi. Yeah, I'm wearing a beanie this evening. You don't want to know why. Let's just say, in quarantine, sometimes maybe you neglect certain things more than you otherwise would. And therefore, doing it. Well, I'm just going to be honest. Like, up until the last minute, I wasn't sure if I was going to stream this evening. And I didn't really feel up to it. And don't really have a lot on the agenda. But then I changed my mind. In part, thanks to Christ. Seriously? The problem with shag carpeting. That's gone. Oh wait, no, there it is. Lucky me. If you ever want to know if a person with severe anxiety is taking Ativan or Xanax or Klonopin, Ativan and Xanax taste like shit. Klonopin, it's almost like sucking on a candy. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to. I have to drink something now. Highly unprofessional. Normally, when I take those, I don't need to drink anything. God. So yeah, it was really sort of a last minute decision to come on stream this evening. I wasn't really feeling up to it, but I wanted to show off some things some changes that I've made. Most of the changes, I think you probably won't notice. Let me say hi to some people. First, before we go off into this, Pavi Q Colorful, always is, y'all are like something reliable that I can't come up with at the moment because I just took a Klonopin, which is Ms. Hey, I like your avatar, Ms. And hey, it's Don't Track Me, Bro. And Flaglow has arrived. Always have to announce. I need to get some trumpets. For now, sorry, Flaglow, this is all you get. Get that there. To announce Flaglow's arrival. Selkie ASMR, hi. Well, Selkie, I think I saw you say somewhere that you liked Matthew McConaughey, so you might not really appreciate what I'm going to say about Matthew McConaughey. Q. Hey, Grace, how are you doing? You left the Dropkick Murphys live stream. Well, you got to get back over there and pogo This is a no pogo zone. Well, it's St. Patrick's Day. Oh my God, I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. Goodness gracious. The red hoodie is a change specifically made for this stream. If you noticed last week, this chair was red. It wasn't actually red. I just had the red hoodie draped over it, pinned in the back with a clamp, and it was nice and taut, and it really did look like the chair was refurbished. Not refurbished, reupholstered. Maybe refurbished. Oopsie Daisy, hi. Oh, thanks for popping in. I appreciate that. Oopsie Daisy's been on a tear lately. She's been putting out tons of awesome videos, so please check them out if you haven't. What are you telling Q? You're telling me that this wasn't already on the bingo card? If I stick to my medication schedule, it's almost a certainty that I will be taking pills on stream. Selkie, I feel like I have a special relationship. By the way, I like the way your avatar matches the watermark logo thingy. I have a weird relationship with benzodiazepines. You're supposed to take them for small lengths of time. People among them. The story that I heard that seemed to be worse, the worst of all that I'd heard among celebrities, was actually Stevie Nicks' experience with Klonopin. What it did to her brain. How she was basically a prisoner for the better part of a decade after using Klonopin in part to quit some other drugs that she was, illicit drugs that she was taking. And you're right, Pobby, right? If medication tastes good, then kids are more likely to accidentally ingest it. But I believe Klonopin is often, there's a sublingual form of Klonopin that just dissolves under your tongue. But I really feel like any form of Klonopin, even the kind that you swallow, you can do the same thing. It just takes longer for it to dissolve. Feels better. Hey, PG, how are you doing? By the way, PG, I saw your email. Haven't had a chance to really look at it or digest it. But it is interesting. So I got an email from PG talking about some seemingly sound, at first blush, scientific ways to get a fuller spatial awareness of where a sound is originating from, using, it was 3 microphones, but only, mixed down to stereo, because obviously that's all we can do here. It's interesting that you brought that up. That is not what triggered what I'm about to talk about, but it was a funny coincidence, because I do have actually some things here that I'm going to get into that are, binaural in nature, ASMR in nature, and maybe we can talk a little bit about what you were talking about, because like I said, I didn't have really the time to digest it. But anyway, to get back to what I was saying about benzos, I've relied on benzos for a long time. I have no shame admitting that, and they're basically I'm trying to remember what it's from. It's from a lot of things, but there was a joke in something I was watching where they were like, "Well, I'm not addicted. I mean, I need them in order to live, but I'm not addicted, right?" So I need them to function in the way that I need to function. I could get by without them, and I have and often do. I don't experience the kind of, and I think in this regard, I'm just lucky. I don't experience withdrawal from benzos the way that some people do, the way that, obviously, famously recently, Jordan Peterson, he of the, you shouldn't be taking medications, you should just stand up and be a man. We'll talk about him more in a minute, but apart from his experience with them recently, right, it kind of came out that he went into a coma, all kinds of stuff happened to him. But prior to that, he had been decrying their use. I'm of the opinion that whatever gets you through life, if it doesn't hurt others, should be open and available to you. Yeah. Let's go down to the bottom here. Yeah, a lot of people have had this problem. I've been taking them probably for 20 years, maybe a little more than that. But I think I just don't have, I don't know, maybe it has done horrible things to me, right? I don't know who I would be right now without them. I feel like I wouldn't be able to hold a job. I wouldn't be able to be anywhere near as social as I am, and that's not very social. So, it's just a matter of, for me, it's a matter of watching dosage creep, right? You don't want to ever be on a even super gradual, because imagine like over 20 years, right? If I was just taking like even the smallest bit more every year, I would be at an insane amount right now, but I've managed to be able to stay exactly where I started on them. But I have been taking them for a long time, and there are, of course, reports of them being linked to early onset dementia. I'm not sure if it was Alzheimer's or not, but and the typical kind of brain fog and that sort of thing. So I do sometimes wonder, what have these medications done to me? But then I also think back, and I think it's better than what the alternative was. So I guess I just think it's a complicated issue. Oh, Q, you like the K240s? Yeah, I find them. I have them right here. So Q was asking me what it is that I liked about these, because they're not the best sounding headphones, and they're really old. Like by that I mean these are not old; these are only a couple of years old. But the K240s, they have not really changed their design at all since I was using them back when I would just use them for music, which was in the late 90s. They were exactly like this. And one of the things that I like about them is they're like a hybrid between open and closed headphones. I don't like my ears to sweat, but I also like to have some bass response, right? And I feel like these are pretty good. They're utilitarian, right? It's essential, if you're ever buying headphones, if you cannot disconnect the cable from the headphones themselves, then you're going to be buying new headphones in a few years. So they're utilitarian. They're, I think, decent sound quality. They're very flat. They're more like reference monitors than the kind of headphones you would want if you were working out or something. Working out, whatever that is. See what else we got here. Elijah Hill. Hi, Elijah. Trying to see what building is that? Is that building in is that Japan? I don't know where. No, that does not look like Japan. Thought I knew that building. Might not. Adrian Black. Oh, I remember you. I don't remember you by name. I remember you by avatar. I am glad that you're able to catch a stream. Selkie, do I think all drugs should be decriminalized? No, I don't. Specifically, I don't think drugs that incite violence or violent behavior should be decriminalized. Decriminalize all sedatives you want. You might argue that hurts society in the long run if we are a nation of zombies. You could read Prozac Nation and get all up on that hype train. But alcohol's a depressant, right? So, and yet, there's always the group of people that has the contrary effect, or will have the contrary reaction to the intended effect. So you may be taking something that's supposed to alleviate anxiety and it actually causes anxiety, or you get rebound anxiety. Likewise, maybe you will take something that is supposed to be, look at antihistamines, right? Like sometimes for some people they knock them out. For some people they're essentially over-the-counter speed. Hi, Celine. How are you doing? There's another avatar that... Oh, wait, no. Sorry. It's like I like the color. Ooh, got first thumbs down. That's like let's see. So been on for 18 minutes. First thumbs down. All right. Yes. Good question. Right, of course. You concentrate on audio, Grace, so that would be one of the first questions that you asked. Xava, hi. How are you doing? Oh, Warp Raven. Good to see you. I don't know, but leave more. I like them. What was this here? What am I missing? Yeah, and there's an argument that says that we would... we went through the majority of human existence without needing pharmacological assistance. And I guess you could argue that, we weren't facing the same kinds of subtle stressors that we are today. I think that might be a little bit of bullshit. But this kind of goes back to when we were talking about the advances of medicine versus the problems that advanced medicine introduces. And every time, we take 2 steps forward, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back, or roll a random die steps forward and roll a random die steps back. It's very difficult to feel like we're in anything but the best possible scenario medically when you're living in the present, right? However, it is about quality of life and not quantity of life. So if we look at indicators like longevity, right, and say, well, look, the average lifespan for a male and a female this year was only 66, and now it's 75. And if that's our only indicator of success, one, that's a pretty easy indicator to hit. Just make DNRs illegal, and you can bump that number up. And in any year where there's not, say, a global pandemic, we could probably work to increase that if we wanted to just sort of pump the numbers to make it look like we were making progress as a civilization. But it's not a great single indicator. I don't know what sort of suite of indicators we'd want to make sure that the years that we were adding were good years and not just years. I'd need more thought. I'd need more brains. Hey, Ramona, how are you doing? And LQ Flores, hi, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Fake name, hello. What am I looking at here? I like it, I think. Well, let me rephrase that, PG. Specifically synthetic, highly targeted psychotropics, I guess. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I can't help but feel like there is a difference between, chewing on a cacao leaf and, you know, getting intravenous Ativan. But there you go. Oh my God. Oh my God. Romachek 75. You've got Brendan Small as your avatar. That was one of my favorite shows. Home movies. And for those of you who don't know home movies, it is one of those retro-scripted shows done by Lauren Bouchard, who did Dr. Katz before that, and of course, Bob's Burgers after that. And Dr. Katz and home movies just hit that sweet spot for me. H. John Benjamin prior to Archer and Bob's Burgers, although I like both of those. Right, I don't really watch Archer at all, but I'll sometimes watch Bob's Burgers. Something about H. John Benjamin's voice is just something about it just tickles me. When he used to play Dr. Katz's ne'er-do-well son, when that aired, I was around the same age, and I identified with that character extremely, extremely well. He would call up the secretary at his dad's office, and just for somebody to talk to, and would just say, "Oh, I'm just sitting here on the kitchen floor, curled up into a ball, crying, gently crying." Elijah, can I do another Sew Your Ears Shut? No, but that does bring us to kind of what I was talking about before, which is I am going to do a video, or I plan to do, I should just imagine whenever I say something like I plan to do a video that is talking your ears off, where I essentially am, using silicone ears like these here with binaural mics inside them to do some kind of similar, it would be similar in a way to sewing your ears shut, in that your ears would be, I guess, thematically similar. Or, H. John Benjamin has a book. I have not read it. I've been too busy reading Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Let me talk about something else real quick here before moving on to something else, because I want to keep things within some realm of we're doing this and then moving on to that. And I was talking about changes that have been made. Oh shit. This is almost too warm. I'm going to have to drink it fast because it's been out now for like 20 minutes. Suboptimal. But so changes that I've made. Okay, so there have been a bunch. And you probably won't notice most of them. Probably nobody will notice them. And maybe they were a waste. But I did them anyway because I wanted to be comfortable with it. So the curtain behind me is now doubled up. So it's actually 20 feet of fabric by 10 feet. Supposed to be two black mottled textured backdrops. I use Kate's backdrops for almost all of my backdrops. They're great. Well, you know what? They're almost universally great. I got one that was bad, and that was supposed to look like a distressed wall, and it just looked like it was printed by like a bad dot matrix printer, which shocked me because every other Kate's backdrop I'd ever gotten had been great, really, really detailed. Even if you looked up close to it, I don't know what their inking method is, but it's superior to any other backdrops that I had bought in the past. So basically I doubled the width of this curtain. One, so I could have a wider shot if I wanted, but we'll get to this in a second. You'll notice that it's actually a tighter shot. But two, so I could have more folds for the light to play. Because I have now two RGB lights of complementing colors, kind of giving that. And you can see it's really weird what happens here. So yeah, these are like when I'm looking at them, it's yellow. It's sort of amberish yellow and blue. And you can see how they kind of combine where they hit the edge of the skull and the brain and kind of become kind of lovely purple. That's partially, when I look at it, I don't really see it, right? It's mostly the lookup table. As we've talked about before, I apply quite a bit of color correction in a custom lookup table. And if I turn it off, now that what you're seeing there is a log image, so what I see doesn't look like that either. Probably, I can't really give you a good representation of what this actually looks like to my eye. But it's not the log image, and it's not this. It's a sort of desaturated, less intense version of what you're seeing. And I'm sure shortly I will get sick of all of this color and want to go back to a sort of duotone look, which has been my preference in the past. Hello, Brian Mitchell. I love your avatar too. Man, so many good avatars. So that's one change, was more fabric in the back. The doubled lights, I believe, were there already. I had for a while, I had a hair light that I removed. I brought it back now. It's very subtle, but I think you can kind of see if I move my hand up there to block it. Just a sort of, oh my God, that's pathetic. I just hurt my arm by reaching over my shoulder. So it just gives a little bit of separation. I didn't want it to be apparent or obvious in any way. I just wanted it to be there. So the number of lights that I have running right now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 lights running right now, which some of them are doing things that are just so subtle that it's just me like on a tear about trying to get things to look exactly the way that I want them to look. Hey, Nicholas, how are you doing? And Lukimana, good to see you. And Karen Dillette, is this, do I know this person? I'm not sure if I do. Man, hear that low-flying chopper. So anyway, so those are a couple of things that have changed. I got another, because I can't help myself, I got another new light. Hello, Elxie M. I love your avatar too. Darn. Good night, Elxie. got another new light that I am freaking in love with. The purpose of getting it was actually because I wanted to use it as an ellipsoidal light. So for those of you who don't know what an ellipsoidal light is, it's just a highly focusable light. It's essentially like a projector. And the idea was that I was going to use it let me address this real quick. Xava. I don't know. I'm not gonna. I don't know if not likable as a human being is correct. I wouldn't say that, but I will. I'll get into that in a minute. Oh my God, Nicholas. That is a lot to deal with in a short period of time. Yeah, I'm very sorry to hear that. Glad you're on the way up, but man, it must seem like, when stuff like that happens, like it just seems like, how can so much be targeted at me in such a short period of time? Right now? I didn't know this. It explains what I'm hearing. What is being I can hear more. What is being protested? I love the 7th Street area of DC has a lot of lovely restaurants and occasionally Elizabeth Warren. Won't tell that story again. But yeah, I am curious what is being protested now, and I'm surprised I haven't read about it. They're protesting the mass shooting. So there was a mass shooting at, I believe it was a single Asian massage parlor, and forgive me if I'm getting the facts wrong, but where 8 Asian women were targeted and shot and killed by, quelle surprise, angry white dude. I didn't realize there was a protest about it, though. I did not realize that was the case. So yeah, it seems very like I don't understand that. Like, if you are an Asian American right now, and the job that you have to do is you're working in a massage parlor, that's unenviable, right? I mean, that itself, just in and of itself, like seeing it perpetuates that kind of geisha mentality, right? Why would they be? I don't know the details of this, but why would they be targeted? Like, what? Even if there was like a racist, obviously, racist agenda there, why would you be targeting people that? And I'm not saying that it's ever right. It's ever right to target anybody, but a lot of these angry people tend to be punching up, as it were, which is no more excusable. But I think when you're thinking about the motivation, you might be able to understand it a little better. And I don't understand this at all. Not that I would, like, not that I'm in a position where I would understand it. The shooter said he had a porn addiction and that's why he did it. I don't get it, man. You will notice, like, the one thing that sort of stopped over the past year was mass shootings, in large part because, well, PG, speaking truth here, right? Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know the backstory. So, and Bryant, you're correct. Absolutely nothing. In fact, encouraged it, probably. Oh, I didn't know this, Carolyn. Huh. Well, I don't know what to say. That's terrible. But I just don't know the details. Like I haven't, it literally, I think just happened the day before yesterday, I think. To see if this leads to anything. What is the implication there? Mass shooting grew during lockdown? I'm not aware of that. Prior to this, what was the last mass shooting? There were major mass shootings in 2020? Because I actually thought there were none. But yeah, my finger's not on the pulse. Right? Well, since we're talking about mass shootings, not to seem glib, I want to finish the kind of story of things that are changing here, and then we can get back to horrifying. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes, I've read about her. Wasn't like Sarah Everhard or something? Sarah Everhard? Everhard? I don't remember her exact name. What? Wow. Is it just that? How? Wow. Okay. This is I'm embarrassed that I wasn't aware of that. For some reason, I guess it's media coverage. Like I am a victim to media coverage and maybe not getting the airtime on these. Perhaps they weren't spectacular enough. Perhaps the body counts weren't high enough. And there were more of them that resulted in more deaths, but they were smaller scale, ergo not as newsworthy. Hey, Jason and Michelle. Yeah, this must be it. And this is, for me, I have no one to blame but myself for not knowing this. Because I remember several times thinking over the year, like, well, at least one good thing is, mass shootings are down. Carolyn, which cop is this? Is this the $27 million settlement guy? Yeah, I do need to read more about it. I've been a bit lax. Makes me feel really I guess it makes me feel really petty to talk about the lights. But I'm going to talk about something. I don't want to get sucked into this just yet. We can get sucked into it, but let's get sucked into it a little bit later. So this is so tone deaf. Ellipsoidal lights. So an ellipsoidal light is essentially a projector, right? More? God, are you hearing that right now? I think it's even right. I see it registering. Wow. Yeah, this must be they're heading to curb or at least surveil the protest. Oh, Levy, I'm so sorry. Strep throat is terrible, terrible, terrible. That one's really low. You're sure it's strep throat? You're sure it's not? There's no COVID there? It's true. Okay, so I got this ellipsoidal light with the express purpose of using it to project shapes. So I want to be able to, you have those lights that can make it look like there's sun coming in through a window. You have blinds. You can drop in these things called gobos that essentially shape the light. And the light is so precise that it focuses, even if you're shooting it 15, 16 feet more away, that it maintains the hard line of light. Hey, Maddie, good to see you as well. Yeah, I'm familiar with your name. Not the avatar, which I really like the avatar, but I'm familiar with your name. Is it Karan or Karan? I'm not sure what to say there. Say Karan. So anyway, I got this light, and I'm really happy with it. What I don't have yet, I don't have the piece that is the actual focuser. So I just have the COB light, which is a chip on board LED light. And it's an aperture light. So it's the same people that make these little beauties, which I have sort of extolled their virtues ad nauseum. And I use them now pretty much just as to get a little bit of something going on in the background there when I switch to that view. Ooh. Look at what's happening with my shadow there. Karen instead of Karen. It doesn't feel COVID-y. It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. It is indeed a mess. So the only piece that I have right now, this seems horribly insensitive of me, and I apologize, but and I do want to talk about this stuff. I just want to kind of keep a cadence going and not stop in the middle and do something else. So the piece that I have right now is the actual light source. I don't have the focusing part. That's not out yet. And I am loving what Aperture is doing. If you're into lights at all, Aperture is incredible. I bought this light. It's not super powerful. It's a 60 watt light. But the brightness is just insane. And I'd love to show it to you right now. Hold on a second. It even looks good. It's going to take a second. I got to take off the light dome. I want to do this without knocking anything over. All right. Is it gonna reach? Question of the moment. Yes. Now, I'm not sponsored by Aperture or anything. I just really like their lights. Let's see if we can get a little more in focus. And then you plug me in so I can hear what you all are hearing. All right, so this is it. It's the Aperture 60D. It's a daylight. Oh, this thing is making a lot of noise, isn't it? But you want this, right? You want this to be able to be rotatable like that. Everything is metal, which I'm amazed by for the price. Right? You can see the lens here, and it's it's not exactly a Fresnel, but it's a focusing lens, and the spotlight piece would go on top of this in front of it, and would actually become the center of gravity. So this would kind of just be more like sticking on the back end. Yes, Warp Raven. I don't know if you follow my Instagram. I did use this to point out the window. And this is not my first COB light, not my first Fresnel light, but it is the one that surprised me most, and also the one that made me kind of go like, oh, fuck, man, why did I spend X amount of dollars on this light when this light was only Y amount of dollars? So it's only daylight, right? So let's get an idea of what we got going on here. It's only daylight, but the brightness, let's put it on just really, really, this is 1%. And then you have a knob here that you can kind of adjust the flood. You can make it tighter, focus it in, and it's just moving the lens back and forth. So you can see a nice tight little circle there, or fairly tight. And again, when you had the zoom attachment onto the end of this edge here would be completely hard, right? Right now it's kind of still soft. So let's flood this out. And see what happens if we turn it up a little bit. I've literally been afraid of screwing up my camera sensors. So, okay, let's bring it up to, I don't know. There we go at 45%. And let's do this. At 45%, yeah, everything is just completely blown out. I don't even want to point that. Look at all the thingies you can see floating. So 45% we're already at. That's too bright to do anything with at that distance. If we bring it up to 100%, yeah, it's just, I mean, nuts. I'm blown away by this light and how much power it has for a 60-watt light. Oh, how's that? And I mean, I could do stuff like just use this as a bounce off the ceiling. And if I do, it's still way too bright, but if I turn it down a bit. Oops. Turned it down some, used it as a bounce. Could get a nice fill going there. You can actually get a pretty decent cut with this light. You can see there it's kind of a diagonal shape. See if we can get that any smaller. But it's not focused, right? It's not a hard edge. But you can get a nice sort of, if you want to get that, let's turn this all the way down. That kind of, dramatic across the eye light, although that's too much. At this distance, anything is going to be too much on this light. But anyway, enough about that light. I was pointing it out the window last night or the night before. And when you focused it, could easily really piss off the neighbors. So because it's St. Paddy's Day, I see a lot of that in DC. There's like particular intersections where people just honk. In concert, it's not out of frustration. Anyway, so that's the light. That's not a change to this, although it might be. I might end up using it once I get the focusing element. I might be able to use it here somehow. I don't know. The intent is mostly to do sort of dramatic chiaroscuro sort of videos that are more ASMR-y. But I love it, but I'm also like a little bit upset because it's relatively inexpensive compared to other lights that I have bought in the past that aren't as good. Oh yeah, that house. I remember that house well. They don't have much up now. Just kind of living a quiet existence, maybe waiting till 2024. It's been... Anytime I pass that house now, I feel a little smug, and then I feel a little guilty for being smug. So the last thing I wanted to talk about before we move on to things that matter is the lens that I'm now using on this main camera. So as I've talked about before, a bunch on chopper, get to the chopper. In a way, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of neat living where you can hear that stuff happening. It has no effect on my day-to-day life, apart from the amount of rent that I pay, I suppose. There we go. So this lens that I'm using right now, as you all know, I'm using for my two main cameras, I'm using Blackmagic cameras, so that I can get consistent color across them. And I've been experimenting with what lenses I like and what lenses I don't like. I tend to prefer longer focal length lenses, so 50 millimeter and above, without getting into the technical parts of it. These Blackmagic cameras use micro four thirds sensors, which are, a quarter of the surface area of a full frame sensor, and therefore a 50 millimeter lens becomes something more like a 100 millimeter equivalent for full frame. So what I had been using in the past for that lens was a Sigma 18 to 35 millimeter, usually set to 35 millimeter. Sometimes if you see it slightly wider, that's why. Right now what I have on there is a 50 millimeter 1.2 Canon L with an adapter in order to get it to work properly with the Blackmagic. Now, this lens I've had this lens for 7 years, maybe even 8. No, 7 years. I think it's the first expensive lens that I ever bought. One of the cool things about lenses, if you're buying stuff, if you have trouble not buying things, you buy a camera, and the moment you've opened the box, it's devalued, and every day that you use it, it devalues by a huge amount, so that you're lucky if in 2 years after buying a camera, it retains maybe 60 to 80% of its value, maybe. And after 4 years, 5 years, you're down to half. A lot of that depends on, what new cameras are released, and what your shutter count is, if it's a DSLR, or your video time is, if it's a cinema camera. However, lenses don't really do that. Lenses, if you keep them in fairly good shape, you can pretty much buy and sell them for the same amount. Like, if you go to look for a used lens, if you're not going to take a scratched lens, the value on most lenses, certainly industry standard lenses like Canonels, which is what this is, they retain their value. So you can always buy one and be like, well, if I need that money, in fact, yes, this is not. That's crazy. This is not actually the same lens that I bought 7 years ago. I did sell it, and then bought it again. I sold it when I needed money, and then bought it again once I was in a position where I was able to. And if I needed money again, I could sell it again. Now, but this lens is really sort of controversial in that some people love it, some people hate it. It is, as I said, it's a 50 millimeter f1.2, which means it has a huge aperture. You can let in tons of light. You can see in the dark, this thing. But along with that goes some rather, for photographers, undesirable characteristics. Specifically, it vignettes the edges, so it gets a little darker near the edge of the frame. You're not really going to see any of that here because, like I said, the camera that I'm on is a Micro Four Thirds camera, and even though I'm using a focal reducer, the image circle being transmitted by the lens onto the sensor greatly exceeds the size of the sensor. So the edges of the lens where you'd normally see vignetting, if you use this on a full frame camera, aren't even on the sensor. So it's not really a big deal for what we're doing here. Not even a big deal if I'm using this on like the cameras I use to shoot videos, which are Super 35 sensors, because those are also smaller than full frame sensors. And also, I almost ubiquitously, when I am shooting videos, apply vignette to the video when rendering. So even if the lens does do it, I don't mind it. Obviously it'd be nicer if you had the option of turning it off, and a lot of cameras will have vignette correction. Anyway, my point is, this lens is, like I said, some people love it, some people hate it. I love it, and I'm gonna try and show you why. We'll see if you can tell. This lens, to my eye, is I'm going to use these horrible words that people use to describe this lens, the creamiest, butteriest, out of focus lens that I've found. I'm not talking about bokeh. So people know what bokeh is, right? It's when you have point lights. Bokeh is this. If you have a point light in the distance or that's out of focus, let's see, put this back there. Yeah. So you see how it has like kind of a ball there. That's when people are talking about bokeh, that's what they're talking about. Ooh, look at the little flare that comes off of that. That's quite interesting. But there you go. That's the kind of bokeh. Like you can literally see when you look at that, what you're seeing there is the aperture blades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only 8. At least it looks like from this bokeh ball. What you're looking at is a stop sign, essentially. But I'm not talking about bokeh. I'm talking about the gracefulness of how it falls off to out of focus. And really to demonstrate that, like I feel like if you watch the rims of my glasses as I sort of back up away from the lens and watch how they just sort of really smoothly defocus in a way that almost looks artificial. Like right there. I feel like, and perhaps it's just some sort of lie that I'm telling myself, that kind of defocusing is extremely pleasant and not something that's present in every lens. The lens I have here is a native 4/3 lens of Voigtlander, approximately the same focal length. And I really like the way this lens looks. It's grittier, but I think you can see, like when I go back out of focus, it doesn't feel the same to me. It doesn't look the same to me. I very much like the way this lens looks in focus, but I vastly prefer the way this lens looks when it's in the defocused areas. To the point where I don't really worry about being completely in focus or not when I'm using this lens. So, that's the other change that's happened in the past week or two. And I'm probably going to stick with this lens unless for some reason I need a wider shot. I did need to move the camera back, right, to make up for so you can see, like when I do this, it's not doing the wide angle kind of thing that you might expect. The camera's actually, 4 or 5 feet away from me because of the increased focal length. And I know this is like fascinating for everybody, but those are the changes that were made around here. Is that it? That's pretty much it. So the other change that I wanted to get to was I've added a set of Sound Professional binaural mics, 2 ears grown in petri dishes that I wanted to kind of play with here and see what kind of sounds we could get and add a bit of stereo / binaurality to these streams. How do I not have here's a brush. Maybe I can use this. Let's see. So I'm going to crank these up. You're going to hear more noise because this is the price that you pay for microphones that use 3.5 connectors and not XLRs. Let's see here. That's not loud enough, is it? Oh yeah, I hear the noise. Now I'm hearing this in stereo. And it appears to be coming through in stereo. If I could get some confirmation that you all are actually hearing this in stereo, that would be great. I can brush one ear, brush the other ear. Here, let me. Now all you can hear right now are the stereo mics. It's uncomfortable. People are not taking this. Oh, this is confirmation. This is confirmation that you're getting the stereo sounds coming from these mics. So, I mean, I've had I've had these mics for a really long time, so, and I don't use them all that often. Hi, Amy. Good to see you. I'm now realizing that having them in petri dishes not a great idea because, there you go, just that. I'm just taking them out. Why do I have them in there? They're going to stay in place better. I have them in there because the premise of the video is going to be like sort of, science-y. But for right now, it'd be a lot better. And actually, it'd be better if I put them on separate sides of me so that if I went over to talk to this one, or went over to talk to this one, all right. Why the neck? Oh, something else cool about this lens. Check these out. Check what happens to these when they become defocused. Oh, I hope this does what it did. You can hear the Coke. You can hear the Coke in that right mic. You hear that? PG, the sides are right for me. Are you sure yours are not? Backwards? So you can really hear what I'm doing on the... And hopefully there shouldn't be any phasing issues, really. But so the last thing that I want to show you with regard to the lens, I promise this. Like, watch what happens to this thing when I bring it closer and out of focus. Look at that. It's a bit of what they call onion skinning when they're talking about bokeh. Each of them are acting like little point lights, but you can see there's a distinct kind of ring around them. And again, I don't think you would get that from this. Let's see. What you get there is not onion skinned and less round. I mean, that's actually really good, but like this one almost looks like an effect. Like I went in After Effects and did something to make this magical kind of weird. I bet you if I pointed light at it, it'd be even more. What could I use to point light at it? I'm not going to use that one. I'll just use my phone. It looks like this magic shimmery ball of technology. I love it. I get entertained by ridiculous things. Now, the problem with having these ear mics here on the table is you're going to hear everything. An everlasting gobstopper. Yeah, it does. And it would be, right? Now you try to chew on this here, and you're not gonna get anywhere. So I've been playing with this stuff a bit. And so if people are not put off by it, I'll just kind of have this going on as we talk about, more or less, greater or lesser extent. Yeah, doesn't it? It looks like, like jewels. They definitely look like, I don't know, man. It's just, it's doing something about the way that it interacts really kind of mesmerizes me. And I feel like it's something that looks like it would be done in post. So anyway, now, yes, Space Age ASMR, right? If only my hand could be in focus. The only way to really do that would be maybe to, I mean, it happens a little bit there. Yeah, even there it's happening. Not as much. It's this weird alien device. Anyway, those are the kinds of things that you stumble across when you're just like sitting there tweaking lights and seeing what you can come up with in your downtime. Let's see if this light. No, gotta have that light. No, no, oh, too much. Bring it. All right. So while I'm doing this, let's move on. I have a few things I wanted to get to tonight. And I'm happy to talk to people who want to discuss it. So if you want to discuss either, well, we can discuss anything, right? But I kind of want to focus on, well, the stuff that I'm focusing on is pretty specific, so maybe that's not the best idea. Excuse me, but I have an interesting. I've been observing an interesting phenomena that everybody I think has seen recently, and that is sort of the very recent rise of Matthew McConaughey as a lifestyle guru. Matthew McConaughey as philosopher, as a preacher of how to live a happy life, sharing his extremely relatable experience in the world with his many fans. Now I'm like True Detective is one of my favorite. The first season of True Detective is one of my favorite. Certainly, like when it comes to crime, buddy cop, slightly uncanny, folding in a good amount of nihilistic pessimism series. Really, like I don't really know how many there are that fit into that category, but I loved him in that. I loved him in Dallas Buyers Club, and I think as an actor, he's really, really. I loved him in Interstellar. I thought he was great in Interstellar. As an actor, you go back and look at his early rom-com stuff, and it's just like, wow, what an evolution. Although you could go back to Contact, and it's very interesting to compare Contact to Interstellar. There's a lot in common between Contact and Interstellar. Contact came out in 1996, based on a book written by Carl Sagan in like 1985. And it's a very good movie. Like, it is a little schlocky, got a little, I don't know, hippy dippy, I guess would be maybe an apt descriptor. But Jodie Foster's fantastic in it. And Matthew McConaughey was really good in it, although he was playing kind of a version of himself. But recently, like with the release, or even prior to his book being released, I noticed him showing up on a lot of Russell Brand's podcast. He was on Jordan Peterson's daughter's podcast. He was just showing up everywhere and kind of talking about his quippy sort of reductionist tips for life. And it really, really bothered me in a way that I was having trouble figuring out why. Apart from the fact um, that I think if you're a white male movie star, um, you might have a little trouble, regardless of how grounded you attempt to stay. You might have a little trouble staying in touch with the more common person and what their needs or drives are, and or why they are the way that they are, and why the things that work for you. That doesn't mean that they're going to work for everybody. I feel like that's kind of like where my biggest objection is. He seems to be doing a lot of preaching about, well, this is how I did it, and therefore you can do it too. And that's part of the lie of the American dream. It's part of the lie about, well, with if you have a data set of one, almost anything could be possible. So I really like, one of the things that he would say a lot is, or I found him saying over and over again in the interviews, was something that I've heard, and I'm sure you all have heard a lot, which is don't ask permission, beg forgiveness. Don't ask permission, beg forgiveness. You see something you got something you want to do, you do it. You don't wait around for someone to tell you that that's the right way to do it. Do I think that? I do think there's some validity to that idea in particular situations. I think it's a little bit glib and certainly dangerous when applied to situations of, say, interpersonal relationships, and perhaps someone who doesn't have the outward charisma of a Matthew McConaughey might face very different results if they attempted some of the things that he seems to think are the keys to getting what you want. So that's part of it. And then I also kind of these kind of experiences. Yes, exactly, Lisa, right? You have somebody now. To some extent, I feel like Matthew McConaughey's preaching is self-limited, and there's a self-selected audience for it that probably doesn't include many people of color. Maybe I'm wrong, right? And I can't speak for people of color, but I would imagine that most of the people who bought green lights, most of the people who think that Matthew McConaughey has that much to offer to their way of living, are probably other white males and some white females. But he largely seems to be kind of aiming for that same Jordan Peterson group. And a lot of the things that I was hearing come out of his mouth felt Jordan Peterson-y to me. And I was having trouble figuring out what the thing was about it, because he's I feel like he's he's a less educated. Education doesn't mean anything, but he can't just say, I have the data, right? Jordan Peterson seems to fall back on that a lot. Sometimes he probably does have the data, but I think sometimes he just says that to sort of discount whatever the other person is saying. I don't think that he's quite as subversively villainous as Jordan Peterson. I think he's a little more oblivious to the nuance of the reality of the situations that he's trying to advise about, either for or against. Let me be sure. Yeah, like in some workplaces, right, there is certainly like even where I work, right, there is sort of an idea of be a self-starter, right? And that's That's kind of what that's saying. But it's just aphorisms often suck because they can be perfectly valid in one case or in one particular set of circumstances and be the worst idea in the world when you remove them from that one specific case of circumstances in which they actually are a good idea. And I do feel like a lot of times it's like, and he even has like he's Matthew McConaughey, that is like, he's living the bumper sticker life, right? He wants pieces of wisdom that are like bumper stickers. You put it on a bumper sticker and you can live by it. And you can essentially, you just have some bumper stickers up there that, every morning you wake up and you see your bumper sticker and that's what you're going to live by. And I would hope that most people, upon hearing that, would be like, oh, okay, I shouldn't be taking this guy seriously. Right? Maybe I'll listen to what he has to say because he has a charismatic cadence to the way that he talks. He's pleasant to look at, and he has some good stories. Right? Obviously, you would have some stories that people who are interested in celebrity, or not even celebrity, he's done quite a bit of life living because he's been afforded the opportunity to, and that's not putting down the fact that he had to work to get them, but the equal amount of work, the equal ethos applied or used by somebody else would not have the same effect. He would not be put in the same position. A lot of what he has and a lot of where he is attributable to luck, genetic, where he was at a given time. I mean, even his story about like how he went to Hollywood. He tells a story that's so infuriating. He's like, I'm not going to do his voice. I went to Hollywood. He was staying with someone who was like an agent, and he was like bugging his agent about, look, have you gotten me any auditions? I need an audition. And his agent said, this is a story he tells. His agent said, Hollywood can smell need. And if you come off as needy, nobody's going to want you. So you need to go away and you need to come back when you don't need it anymore. And then he says he went on like a 6-week trip around Europe with some of his buddies, came back in a totally different frame of mind, got an audition the next day and nailed it. Because he wasn't thinking about, I need this role anymore, right? What a pile of crap that entire story is. Like, what, if it's true, like what parts of it are apocryphal? I'm sure there are some details there that were either played up or omitted for either brevity or dramatic effect. But whatever it is, right? Like, even if what he says is word for word true, dude, you look the way you look, you sound the way you sound. There was a certain chain of events that happened that worked for you. If you're really suggesting that the way to make it in the world, right, or the way to make it as an actor, or whatever it is that he was suggesting there, is to let go of any desire to do the thing that you want to do, because that's going to relax you enough to be able to come off better. I can get on board with some of that, right? Don't put too much importance on the things that, if you can manage to compartmentalize the way you think, don't put too much importance on the things that you want, because the more you want something, the more going after it is going to be a source of anxiety for you. Fine. That's like one point, and it's probably a valid point, but I feel like the real truth is, in general, people have to bust their ass all the time. They have to be constantly working. They have to be constantly sacrificing their time in this world in the hopes that an opportunity will co-present itself during a period in which they are busting their ass, and it will be one in which their particular age, race, background, whatever it is, skill set, those two things need to coincide. And I feel like he overlooks that. Like, I'm pretty sure Matthew McConaughey thinks if he had to do it all over again, it would all go, everything would go his way, would break his way again. That's the sense that I get from him. And it was also, to an extent, the sense that I got from Jordan Peterson. I find it hard to listen to Jordan Peterson. Like, I'll listen to a few minutes and then I'll just get frustrated and I'll have to stop listening. But I haven't listened to much Jordan Peterson since his near-death experience. So I don't know if he saw some sort of light or if he changed. But I do remember, like I said, I was feeling like a similar sort of ineffable with Jordan Peterson. It was more effable. It was more like, yeah, I know what I don't like about this person, or what I don't like about what he's saying here. With Matthew McConaughey, it was a little more like, I don't know if it's just like he presents himself as kind of inoffensive and yet pretty pretentious. And I know I'm not one to be talking about that, but and sort of the arguments that I hear there are very much it worked for me, you do the same thing, it will work for you, that's America, right? And that whole line is bullshit. But what it was, I think that really got to me, and it was not the thing that I was not able to put my finger on. I wasn't able to figure out until I watched, and I have had trouble watching Russell Brand as well. But I will say, I think I might be coming around a bit on Russell Brand, because I feel like the way he feels is way more in line with the way that I feel. But anyway, regardless, so he had is he a psychiatrist or a psychoanalyst? I think he's a psychologist, but a philosophical psychologist. Gabor Mate, I think was his name. Was it Gabor Mate? Gabor Mate. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. And they specifically discussed Jordan Peterson. And what Gabor Mate said, I want to be sure that I don't want to be mispronouncing this guy's name or saying the wrong name. Gabor Mate. Yeah. Hungarian-Canadian physician. Specializing in childhood development and trauma. Gabor Mate. So, Jordan Peterson came up, and what Gabor Mate said was that when he listens to Jordan Peterson, he always hears a lot of suppressed rage. And that should seem obvious, but it wasn't really obvious to me, although I did feel like he was bitter, generally bitter. And that kind of clicked to me that's what I feel from, ironically, this sort of affable, sort of all right kind of person. What I felt coming from him was a kind of suppressed rage. Rage at, or rather kind of like a throwback to more standardized ideas about masculinity. Specifically, what is I think rightfully recognized now as toxic masculinity, right? He's that's him, and he's totally behind that. So, and the more that I listen to, I recommend listening to Gabriel Mate. I've only listened to that one interview of his. I want to delve deeper into, before I unreservedly recommend him. Perhaps he has some terrible things that he espouses that didn't come out in that interview, and I would hate to say, hey, Gabriel Mate, go check him out. But okay, so Lisa, yeah. So some people know. I recognized him, so I'm guessing I must have heard him talk before because I recognized him, but I didn't recognize his name. I literally recognized his face and his voice. I probably saw him on a panel or something like that. Oh man, Lexi, yeah, that's got to be rough. What do you do there? Do you try to get by with like a first name? Or no, you have to say both names. And then do people like laugh if you mispronounce it? Like, oh, that would be so, I would just be like I would be spelling out the names or maybe writing them down on cards and holding them up. Because I feel horrible when I mispronounce somebody's name. Let's check to see if anybody is interested in talking about what we're talking about right now, which is to say self-styled help gurus who probably do more harm than good. Well, here's a partnership offer. Oh, this sounds very attractive. Media Cube. Sounds great. Personal manager, 24/7 tech support, design services, SEO optimization, brand deals. Cool tools to make content creation easier. Express payments. Sounds like a bunch of shit. Oh, I got PG on here, but he doesn't want to talk about this stuff. I'll put you on as an alternate. Let's see if we got somebody talking about this, and we can move on, right? Let's move on. If this is not something that is resonating with people, that's so obviously the way to do it, and yet it was like so opaque to me. That's, I guess, because that calls for some amount of vulnerability, i.e. admitting that you don't know how to pronounce the name, and also expressing the desire to actually want to be able to pronounce it correctly. Of course, that's what you do. Are you serious? This is a bingo? I'm all up in your ears. Celine, whereabouts do you live? Do you live in the US or the UK, or do you live in a primarily English-speaking country that you run into this problem? Did I bring these things out last time? I think I did. Do you know what occurred to me? Too late. I gotta do this away. Occurred to me too late, however, in playing with these. I wish that I had discovered them a month or so before. For those of you who have seen Tenet, that's primarily, sounds a lot like one of the prime instruments that's used in the Tenet soundtrack. Oh, I'll tell you, Grace. Yeah, they took a while for me because you had to order them. It's through Amazon, but it was like a third party, and it took like a couple weeks. So it was. I mean, that basically, add some strings behind that. Yes, it does whistle if I do it in a circle. I think I did that last week. But yeah, I'm a fan of these things. Although they're very, like, you can even see this one now. It's like kind of all crinkled up. I've only used it a few times, so I have to get a bunch of them. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, and I expect to see a drop off here, because there's sort of a trigger warning here. I've been watching Farrow v. Allen on HBO, the Woody Allen Mia Farrow documentary, and it's been we talked about it a little bit. I'm not going to go into like details about stuff, but just if there's people who don't even want to who are triggered by this kind of thing, that would be sexual abuse or really like child abuse, then I of course understand. But there's a reason I wanted to talk about it, and I'm not going to talk. So I'm going to be careful. Apart from what I just said, right? I'm not going to go into detail about what happened, which honestly I feel like beyond. I was going to say like the allegations of what happened, but I'm at a place right now where I feel like calling them allegations is doing them a disservice. No spoilers. It's a documentary though. So it's you know what happened already. I don't know. You may want to not listen, because I feel like this is. I guess I feel a lot of guilt because. So just say it like in the past. Let me turn these down so the noise isn't quite as loud. In the past, oh wow, look at that. We lost like 8 people. That's okay. In the past, I have been a Woody Allen apologist. I was appalled at the fact that he would get into a relationship with somebody who was the adopted daughter of his girlfriend. He did not, just to state, these are facts, right? He did not live with Mia Farrow. He was not married to Mia Farrow. But that doesn't mean that like the dynamic that existed there between him and Sunyi was not parental. And the fact that they were discovered in the way that they were discovered shortly after Sunyi's 18th birthday, I find it very, very difficult to believe that it had just started and that there wasn't something going on there prior to her 18th birthday. And even if, and that's just like skirting the legal issue and not the moral issue of, regardless if she was 17 or 18, what he did was horrible and taking advantage and a power trip and inappropriate and almost every level that you can imagine. And I used to, in the past, I used to think like, well, they're still married. He famously came out in a press conference and said, the heart wants what it wants. All right, fine. I mean, the heart can want whatever it wants, right? We are not dogs, right? We have a higher functioning brain, and we have the ability to feel things that we might know, or that we do know. We do know, are completely morally and ethical, intolerable, and therefore say, "Oh, it sucks that I feel this thing. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where this feeling can grow, or there would be any danger of it manifesting into action." So the heart wants what it wants. The brain, Woody Allen's a smart guy. I mean, I don't think there's any denying that. He's also really manipulative and devious, and a gifted storyteller, which I think worked to his advantage throughout this entire narrative that's been going on now since 1992. So, 28, going on 30 years here. So he had all of these things in his arsenal, regardless, and add into that, the fact that he had the power and ability to essentially blackball anybody that he wanted and control anyone he wanted and give an idyllic life, or the promise of an idyllic life, to anyone he wanted. And he was globally admired, and is still globally admired, in a way even more than say, Roman Polanski is. But somehow I was part of the problem, I think, right? I overcame that. And there was a part of me that was just like, man, I love this guy's movies so much that I am going to turn a blind eye to what I know is wrong, and what I know he's done that is wrong. So just to be clear, I'm talking about Sun Yi, because that is all that I knew about, and all I think that the public knew about at the time. And so I was able to sort of push that to one side, still watch and enjoy Woody Allen movies, occasionally get a little creeped out at how closely the plots of his movies often mirrored, I think, what he was hoping to experience or trying to manifest in real life. Am I scaring everybody? I might be chasing everybody away. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this is only a spoiler if you don't know the story about Woody Allen, which I think is highly publicized by now. So the revelations that came up then in 2007, maybe 2012. I don't remember the exact year. That's where it started to be like, okay, this is definitely, this person is a horror and should not be supported in any way and should be barred. So essentially what happened is he sexually abused his adopted 7 or 8-year-old daughter. And I'm not going to say alleged, because it does not seem like it's an allegation at this point. And he spun a narrative that was pretty compelling if you didn't look any closer. Like if you just, kind of like Jordan Peterson's I Have the Data, right? If you just went by press conferences, I think he was able to, in part because of his talent for storytelling, present himself in an almost sympathetic way, a victim of basically the story that he presented was Mia Farrow was disgruntled at the fact that he ended up marrying Sun-Yi and coached her children to concoct lies about his behavior as a way of discrediting him. The studies, the police reports, all of the evidence that has come out completely contradicts that. You will hear, or I have heard Woody Allen say that they chose not to prosecute me in Connecticut, which is where these events purportedly happened. They specifically, they spoke to the chief AG, or I think it was the AG or whoever it was that would be in charge of bringing charges against Woody Allen. He specifically said the only reason he did not bring charges against Woody Allen was because it would further traumatize his still, at that time, very young daughter. Not because he didn't have probable cause, not because he didn't have evidence, but Woody Allen seized on that as a look, they chose not to prosecute me. It's not the same thing as being found innocent. And then he also had a very dubious Yale study done that consisted of a doctor and two, I believe, social workers who interviewed the victim and ended up coming out with a report saying that there is evidence that this child has been coached. This child is not consistent with their answers. We think that their finding was essentially that the abuse is unlikely that the abuse described happened. And then it was later found out that all records of all transcripts of the interviews, of all the work done, was destroyed, which doesn't happen. It's like, and they repeat this over and over again, like every person involved in this, that you do not do that. You keep that stuff. The one doctor who kind of led the charge on this study obviously wouldn't be interviewed. However, the social workers who were involved in the report actually contradicted what came out of the report. They essentially said they believed what was being told to them. So you had Woody Allen grabbing these two pieces, right, and a third further piece to be revealed in a second. So he was grabbing onto these pieces. He was saying, well, I wasn't prosecuted in Connecticut. They chose not to prosecute me. Therefore, I'm innocent. And this Yale study found that the child was coached. He then sued Mia Farrow for custody, which if you look at like any sort of textbook sort of thing to do to further solidify the idea of your innocence, you sue for custody, claiming that the other parent, generally the mother, is unfit. And that's exactly what he did. He followed that playbook to a T. And then the last thing that he did was when the victim came out with, I'm purposely not using names here, but when the victim came out with an open letter that was published, I think, by the New York Times, came out with an open letter describing what happened. One of the things that was sort of latched onto was a train set that existed in the attic. And her memory was such that she very, very much remembered this train set. Woody Allen, in his sort of counter to this story, said, this train set did not exist. This train set was never mentioned before. It was only mentioned now. It didn't exist. There was no space for it to exist in the attic. There was no such train in the attic. This is clearly like one of those details that somebody who is coached remembers and grasps onto to add validity to their story. That was Woody Allen's response. And then, like, immediately after that, he'd go back to police reports showing the blueprint of the attic, showing the train set in the attic, exactly where it was said to be by the victim. And this is back when the events happened, not recently. And also showing and highlighting the passages in the interviews where she brought up the train set over and over again 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. It's not a new thing. It's not a new thing. But if you just were to listen to the press releases and just listen to the conferences held, and you wanted to be in a state of, like, you were a Woody Allen fan and you did not want to believe this about your hero, and that's as far as you dug, then that would be it. You'd cling on to those things, and you would in your mind discredit the abuse of somebody because of your desire to not want to lose the ability to watch movies that you like. So, like I said, I feel pretty guilty about this because if you had asked me, 15 years ago, what my top 5 favorite movies were, I would gladly have told you that 2 of the top 5 were likely Woody Allen movies. I'm not even going to say the names of the movies. I don't want to. I don't want to do any. I don't want to do anything to. I mean, not like my voice matters in any way, but I guess the reason that I bring this up is because I feel like even fairly well-meaning people, and I guess I consider myself a fairly well-meaning person, and I try to be thoughtful about things, but I have as many blind spots as, or more maybe, because I will rationalize them. I have tons of blind spots about these things, and I'm ashamed, really. It goes without saying I'll never watch another Woody Allen movie again. I actually did get his latest audiobook, purposefully not to listen to for enjoyment, but to listen to kind of hear what lies he was telling, or what was the narrative that he was trying to push forward. And yeah, that's sort of one of my secret shames, and I'm really sorry, that I feel horrible that I ever championed him or tried to divorce him from his work, really. And it's even hard, thinking back on it now. Some of the movies are just so, it's almost like he wanted, a point that was made is that he was including these elements in his movies for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was to normalize the behavior of tremendous age differences between men in powerful positions and women who are not in powerful positions. And this is largely a gender dynamic, right? But there are cases of women in powerful positions doing the same thing, teachers having affairs with students. And that's not, I didn't mean that all teachers are women, but all directors are men. That's not what I meant. But so what I could think of off the top of my head, where I've seen women abusing this as well, but it's largely men. And I don't know, it's hard to know how much of that is because men tend to be, I don't think that it is because men tend to be in positions of power where they can perpetrate this abuse. I think there's something genetic at work there. But the heart wants what it wants, is not an excuse, right? It's not an excuse unless you're just a heart and you don't have a brain, which clearly I think Woody Allen and Harvey Weinstein and, I don't know that much about the Johnny Depp situation, but I would assume Johnny Depp as well. They all sort of have that, those kinds of excuses readily at hand. Okay. I don't know how far I went off the track there. So I'm going to go back through comments real quick. See if there's anything here I can't go back too far. Oh my God, yes. In the spirit of lightening things up for a moment, Doritos are horrible for you, but man, they're good. Q, number 5. And shots of brandy? Shouldn't you be swilling and enjoying said brandy? Agreed, Ms. Oh, and Woody Allen was also a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Excuse me. Yeah. It's a purposeful attempt to try and shift the zeitgeist into an area where it's less egregious to behave in that manner, really. And it's abhorrent. Well, you shouldn't feel any guilt. And I mean, like Mia Farrow starred in Rosemary's Baby, right? So, well, what does that mean? It doesn't really mean anything. I actually need to look into that. Like, I don't know if she knew at that point what was going on with him. I'm not clear. I don't think so. I think back then he was still a darling. It's interesting. He is also a small man. I don't know if small man complex factors into it at all. Well, this is an interesting point, Lisa. I think, and this is a admittedly very uninformed opinion, but I almost feel like it's less about canceling them and more about not supporting them, certainly not while they are alive. I don't think Woody Allen, after he dies, I don't think soon you should be punished for this. I don't think that certainly no one else in his family should. Famously, Moses, one of his adopted sons, came out on Woody Allen's side. Moses was the one who, of the children, at least from the information that I have, saw Woody most as a father figure. So I don't know what happened there, but I don't think people who are tricked by a predator should be. I don't think they should be punished, right? So certainly, like if his estate grew post-mortem, that wouldn't be troubling. So I guess my very uninformed opinion is, don't cancel Picasso, right? You can condemn his behavior, still value the art, if you value Picasso's art to begin with, and separated it that way. I don't know about this. I'll have to look into this. Yep. Anywhere there is a power dynamic, like an unbalanced power dynamic. I suppose the entertainment industry attracts vulnerable people maybe more than some other industries. There's probably some truth there. Oh, good night, Maddie. Yeah, Lexi, sorry about that. Yeah, this was weird. It seemed a bit like grasping at straws. And yes, you'd almost be like, well, if he was really guilty of this stuff, wouldn't he try and cover it up better? Like, why would he make a movie where he is romantically involved with a 16-year-old girl? He's in his 40s and he's romantically involved with a 16-year-old, and making it a point, like actually a point of, he's joking about it at a dinner table with friends. Surely he must be confident enough in his own innocence that he would not put that sort of thing on display, right? Yeah, but this is it, right, Amy? Right, we're not in the past anymore. We can evolve and we can change, and why aren't we doing it more? I can't speak about Johnny Depp. I can just say that, like, I guess I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know much about Amber Heard, to be honest with you. Well, yeah, the story might be old, but things that were appropriate or considered appropriate one time are not considered appropriate now. So, let's see. Yeah, it sucks. Rosemary's Baby is a great movie, and Mia Farrow was great in it. And Frank Sinatra left her because she refused to step down from that particular role, and yet it was directed by a piece of shit. Yeah, this is true. Oh man, I don't know who this is even. Don't even know who that is. Well, I kind of think there was an answer with Michael Jackson, wasn't there? It's a weird dynamic, because, right, we live in this supposedly just society, at least in America, right, where one is innocent until proven guilty, and yet we are speaking of things that are incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to prove. So what does that mean? We just we just throw them all out, and we just, like, We just say, well, we can't prove it, so this person's innocent. That's not right. That's certainly not justice. Let's see here. I'm not quite following this. So, conflate age difference with abuse. But then you're saying there's an inherent power imbalance with an age gap. So it sounds like it sounds like a tautology to me. It sounds like the thing to do there is avoid the age gap. Oh, I did watch Head of the Class. Which one was he? Do I need to? Shouldn't be doing this during stream. Here, wait, let me play with the ears a little bit. Yeah, let's do a bio break. I could use a bio break, actually. Let's do a bio break. We're at 2 hours. Do a bio break, come back, and move on to maybe lighter stuff. I'd like to do that. So I will be back in a couple of minutes. See you in a bit. Hey ho, we're back. That was a good bio break. And I did it. Oh, I even like the way, look what it does to the strings when it goes out of focus. It's just nice. Look at that, like back here by the bridge. Most lenses just don't do that. They don't do it. But we're doing it. Oh, good night, Ms. Oh, people are talking about playing guitar. Yeah, either start with I started with classical, or electric is easy. Yeah, my suggestion would be to start with classical and also start without a pick, kind of like when you're learning piano, they say can't use the sustain pedal. Well, let's see how this sounds through the... Oh, they're on. Let's see something. It's showing the level is very high, but I don't really hear it that well. I don't know what was playing. I don't remember. I've been trying to do more hand exercises of just like the... play the 1812 overture. I can play the Leander that everybody always plays. Of late I've been trying to write classical stuff. It's not really classical, traditionally classical sounding, but like this. stuff like that. Of course, the gosh. But that I wrote a long time ago, so haven't played it in a while. So it's been, I don't know if I'm playing it. Yeah. Well, that's why you said that, right? I just try to, I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to continue it. I apologize. Yeah, there we go. That's the same thing as saying I'm never going to continue it. The wall, huh? Come on, copyright strike. Way to make a lot out of an A minor chord. Yeah, Gilmore is definitely a person I look up to. Although apparently he did not play this. Apparently he did not play that. They got an uncredited guitar player to actually play it, who apparently used a leather pick. So what's going on? That's a great question. What is going on? I'm just playing some guitar, and whatever comes up, comes up. It doesn't look like we're going to have any chat or video interviews tonight. Dreamy hair. Believe me, if I took this off right now, there's nothing good going on underneath this beanie. So, and I like the texture, the way the texture looks. Yeah? No? Not at all? Let's turn these down here. So we can get, it's amazing. I don't know if you hear it on your end. Maybe you don't. But the noise that I hear when I turn those down is just huge. D minor, saddest of all keys, right there. Used a lot by Nick Drake. Yeah, Nick Drake. Man, that guy, I mean, died at 27, right? He could play so incredibly. Was it? He had this one song that I used to, there was a good finger exercise. I think it was called, I want to say The Road, but that's not right. But I don't. I haven't played that for a while, but I used to love it because I love the counterpoint rhythm of it. He did a lot of that stuff. He did it with When the Day Is Done. I need a capo to play it. I don't have a capo around here, but rest assured, Nick Drake did a lot of offbeat. I'm not sure what it's called, but offbeat finger picking, where it was like they were contra rhythms. What else? What else do we got? Oh, I'm sorry. What's the question here? Oh, what mics am I using in the ears? I'm using Sound Professional. They're actually called Sound Professionals in-ear binaural mics. They look like they're the mics that like every ASMR artist had before the 3DO became a thing. They look like this. You can actually wear them in your ears, and walk around recording into an H4 in your pocket or something much smaller. And I'm not showing my hair. My hair, it's just like a greasy. I'll show it out of focus. It's just this greasy. It's a mess. There's nothing good going on here. There. I let the lens work for me by covering up the hair. I just showed the mics. Yeah, they're in-ear mics because they're in ears. Which makes why, that's why I put them in ears. My gosh. So much rage. I'm getting a lot of Jordan Peterson energy from everybody in chat right now. Oh, Ezra, nice to have you along. Thank you. Please see you next week. I'm going back and forth on continuing with Conspiracy Against the Human Race because people seem to hate it. and I don't want to inflict anything on anyone, might move on to something else. And I understand why people might not like it. So yeah, I may just end that after part 2. It seems to be my MO, is to do a few parts of something and then stop. I've been watching a lot of riff tracks lately. Wait, what? I mean, I would love that. I enjoyed both those movies. I preferred Hereditary, although I liked Midsummer more on second watching. Look, oh my gosh, Václav was here and I didn't even know it. Good night, Václav. I hope all is well with you. It's been a bit since I've seen you. As Q so kindly put on the Discord a link to something that I worked on in the 90s. There's a guitar riff that I came up with for that, which is... You could tell probably I was listening to a lot of it's been a while since I played that, like Shape of My Heart, or a lot of the 90s Sting at that time. No, I'm not going to. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Warp Raven, for coming. A date with the inside of your eyelids. I have one of those. But I'm always late, and my eyelids never seem to appreciate me. And it's annoying. Shape of My Heart. Can I actually used to be able to play it. It is a cause as a meditation. And those who play never expect. He doesn't play for the money he wins. Not gonna do the whole thing. But yeah, I used to like that song a lot. I still do. People hate on Sting a lot. But whatever. I mean, it's more his persona that gets on my nerves a little bit, not really so much the music. Especially, I mean, the Police. How can you not like the Police? No, Q, you can do whatever you want. So I have been trying to do more finger exercises. because I think my picking hand is pretty fast. My playing and my picking fingers are not that fast or that precise. Cawthon, you've missed nothing. At this point, we're just kind of hanging out and we're being loosey-goosey right now. It's called Home to Your Ghost, Q. And it's take your time to sink way down and rise for air with me. Firecrackers, you'd say, were better lit than the 4th of July in South Beach. And that counts as a Miami mention, because South Beach, Miami, obviously. So if you have that on bingo, then there's your Miami mention right there. And in case that wasn't a Miami mention, Miami. So yeah, it was funny. I was in, that was a weird, I mean, I enjoyed that time of my life. I was dirt poor. I was living with 2 other people. I had like a period in my life where I lived with, in 2 separate instances, an apartment with 2 women. So the first one was, I was living with a lesbian couple, and that went on for years. I lived with them for, I want to say 3 or 4 years. And then ended up moving in to an apartment with 2 people who were kind of scenesters. One who ran the Food Not Bombs initiative in Miami, and was always at Camilla's house and organizing shows and vegan, and she now lives in DC, but I haven't seen her, and we've texted back and forth about we both live in the same city again, because she moved to DC years before I did, and we have not met up, unfortunately. But she's still doing the same stuff, doing women in tech. Is a radical change. She actually runs a pretty big startup with major funding from Craigslist. I forget. I don't know does anyone know what Craig's last name is? List, I guess it is. Slist. Craigslist. Let's see what it's called. Oh yeah, womenwhotech.com. It's a grants program for women who do startups. She's been that I admire her a lot. She's someone who has, since she was 21, maybe even younger than that, has known what she's wanted to do. It's been really clear and focused about what she's wanted to do. She's still doing it. And it has a lot more widespread appeal now than it did in the late 90s. Craigslist. But anyway, yeah, I admire her a lot. But those were fun times. Although I was broke, I was so broke. And we were playing. My God, I remember playing for opening a furniture store. It was like a high-end bespoke furniture store in Coral Gables, which is an affluent suburb in kind of the South Miami area. And it's where I grew up when I was younger, before I didn't have money. And oh, yeah, I mean, I think this is super important to very, very early on in education to espouse coding for women, to kind of address the disparity. But yeah, so me and a friend of mine, who I played in a band with, we ended up playing at this ritzy furniture store. I don't know, they were probably out of business. It was probably a front for some minion of Pablo Escobar or something. But we were totally out of our element. Everybody there was in black tie, and we just kind of showed up with t-shirts and jeans. And the reason that we did it was they paid well. Yeah, like opening a furniture store, like weird, right? But at the time they gave us $500, which for us then was like, wow, that's fantastic. But we had to play for like 3 hours, and we were we didn't play covers. So it was like we were doing sort of emo prog acoustic guitar as best we could. And it was just kind of clear that we were not, if they had, whoever was that coordinated that and booked us, they probably got rid of that person. It was a very clear mismatch. Oh my gosh. Karen, how do you know this? I used to go to, I went to University of Miami, and I used to go to Venetian Pool when I was younger. It's a beautiful, beautiful pool. I think probably a little gross. But yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of these kinds of places that would pop up. They would be gone within a year. You'd never see anybody in there, right? Like maybe one person would wander by. It was always like by appointment. A lot of times you couldn't even walk in there if you wanted to. So yeah, I'm sure they didn't care, but I remember at one point they asked us if we could play any covers. Ended up playing Shape of My Heart. That's what sort of triggered the memory. And I think me and Julio down by the schoolyard, there were just like a couple of songs that I knew at the time that were sort of known. But apart from that, we were just kind of like sitting there, like doing like playing weird kind of ambient chord voicings, which is what we were kind of into at the time, right? Always like, if you like, why play a chord like that when you could play so much more difficulty, you know, and only have maybe one note difference. But always that double fifth was a big thing, like doing that. And that was pre-Everlong. But yeah, so. this guitar sounds nicer than yours. It might be the microphone. I mean, this is not like a luthiered guitar or anything. It's a Cordoba, so you can get them off Amazon. I mean, it wasn't cheap, right? It was not a cheaper guitar. I'd gone a long time with an inexpensive guitar, and I wanted to kind of oh God, I remember this show so well. This was with Jimmy Eat World. For those of you who don't know Jimmy Eat World, it'll take some time, little girl. You're in the middle of a ride. Everything will be just fine. So we were playing. They were playing a couple of Florida shows, and we were supposed to open for them. And that night, we got a flat tire, and we didn't get there until the show was almost over. So even by the time we had set up, like most people had left, it was pretty depressing. All we got out of it was we could say we got to play with Jimmy Eat World. Yeah, we weren't big. We would play if we played in Miami, we would get a few hundred people to come out. But outside of Miami, obviously, or maybe outside of South Florida, we never got any sort of recognition, although had fun. I mean, that was the more important thing. A couple of people in the band went on to more successful bands, particularly a band called Torch, which if you're into like doom or sludge rock, you may know them. They play a lot with like Baroness and Mastodon and stuff like that. And that guy I played the furniture store with, he went on to be in Torch and then some other bands. He was in a band called Killer Be Killed for a while, which was one of the guys from Mastodon, Max Cavalera, who was the singer for Sepultura, which was one of our idol thrash bands when we were into metal in the late 80s, early 90s. And I think someone from Converge or something like that. So it's weird, all those connections that you make. Yeah, Baroness is, they're pretty great. And man, they're extremely talented. Their drummer now is the ex-drummer for a band called Trans Am, who were a prog trio on, I think, Thrill Jockey Records out of Chicago back in the 90s. Wait, what? Yeah, we played around Boynton Beach a lot. There was this place called the Old Schoolhouse, but this would be like 96, 97. Were you a teen in 96 or 97? And I think I've talked about my weird experience living in the mutiny and not knowing that I was living in the mutiny, or what the mutiny was, or what its history was, or that I was walking through rooms where people were slaughtered. And there were probably, if you believe in ghosts of those slaughtered by Pablo Escobar. Although, that kind of stuff, often is apocryphal. But I remember thinking it was weird that there was, right when you walked in, there was like this balcony right above the entrance that was very thin. It didn't even have some room for like chairs to be on there. And there were two doors that led out to it. So basically it was like you could walk out one door, walk across this balcony that was overlooking the entrance, and then walk back into another door. And I was like, what possible purpose? That doesn't seem like, if it was wider, I could see like it could be a place where people could lounge. But there's no reason for this thing to exist. And now I think it's the place where people stood with machine guns to make sure whoever was coming in was on the list. yeah, I think by then we were probably gone by right about then. Oh my gosh, wait a minute. Tobacco Road, Elbow Room. Definitely played those places. I can't say how many times we played Tobacco Road. It's a shame. That place existed for almost 100 years. And I think was torn down or closed or just a few years ago. I think it was like the first licensed bar in Miami, I think. Karen, I did not know that you were in or knew Miami. That's Miami. Anyway, why don't we wind down with some good old-fashioned ASMR. I hope you all are tired and in a place where mentally and physically you might be able to lie down and go to sleep. Colorful dreams. 2 ships passing in the night. Came very close. It always made me want to, made me wonder kind of how close we've all come to death without knowing it. How we just missed being at an intersection at the wrong time. Or walking into the mutiny at the wrong time. Meow. Yeah, they tore down Tobacco Road just before its centennial, which is ridiculous. Oh, hey. Wonder how this sounds. Yeah, that's right. It is The Ridge Wallet by Ridge. I'm going to stick it in your ear. Miami ASMR would just be like, it would be more visual. It would have to just be like neon lights and glass cube wall construction and a lot of white concrete art deco with weird sculptures that look like the McDonald's golden arches, painted myriads of colors, or large wall murals along warehouses and warehouse districts. Oh yeah, Q. And it's funny how I sort of pushed that out of my mind. I mean, I don't want to go into detail about what it is. It wasn't something that meant I would be dead within a couple years probably, but it would have been really, really bad. Oh my God. So, Karen, do you live in Miami, or did you live in Miami? I'm very interested about this. Oh, so Q was talking about, I got a couple weeks ago, a month ago now, I've been feeling like super fatigued. I still am. So I went to my doctor and asked for the most extensive blood work. And I told her, I don't care if it's covered by insurance or not covered by insurance. If there's anything you think that this could be, I would like for you to test for it, and I will, just make do with the bills. So she did, and it was 7 vials of blood they took from me, like big vials. Took a while. So it was a very extensive blood work, and then I got it was a week that passed, and I hadn't heard anything. And then I got a call from her office saying that she wanted to talk to me the next day, and Berry College, yeah. Where can you be more specific when you say Fort Lauderdale? For a long time, I lived in Weston, which is very west, Fort Lauderdale. And then I also lived further east, although not that much further east, but like in the Sunrise area for a while. 7 isn't too bad. I don't know. It was a huge number of panels. It felt bad for me. I usually would only get like 3 or 4. But anyway, so she wanted to talk to me, and basically told me that she was like, well, I wanted to talk to you about these results because there's one that is not good, and I don't want you to see it and not understand it. And also, it's very unusual for this result to be like this in concert with all these other results. So her immediate reaction was she suspected that it was a mistake based on the other results. Well, Karen, am I saying places that are very close to home? Do you ride on the what is that, 595? That road, that east-west road that goes from Weston to downtown Fort Lauderdale? Oh, well, that was before this. I actually did that before I got these results. But I don't know, maybe I sensed something. Anyway, so I ended up having to have all the blood work redone, or at least that specific area redone. And that came back saying it was fine. And then I had to have it, and then she was like, I want to get it done one more time. So the third time was basically to make sure, because, you have one result that says it's one way. And even though she was saying that it doesn't seem like it should be this way, you have another result that says the other way. They kind of cancel out. So that was what the third one was for. And they were all, at that point, they were all fine. And had a specialist as well who was talking to me about the results and basically said, yeah, the specialist would have told me, he said, I would have told you that this was just wrong and to ignore it, and I wouldn't have even retested you. But my GP was being especially cautious. And so, yeah, it ended up being okay, but it was like 2 or 3 weeks of just waiting and just being very worried about it. And it was really hard to do stuff. But yeah, I did stream, and in part because, it takes your mind off it. I'm okay. As far as blood work goes, I'm okay. But I appreciate the concern. So Karan lives in Plantation. Oh. I don't know if I want to say commiserations. It depends where in Plantation, I guess, right? Like Plantation can be nice. I preferred living in Fort Lauderdale to Miami. But then the last time I was there, I was like, wow, Fort Lauderdale is getting just as bad. So it might be now that there's really no difference. It's just, there's no such thing as rush hour. It's all rush hour. I do have blood. I am human, as far as I know. Well, I thought I made that clear, Pavi. I thought I made that clear at the start of the story. Everything is okay. as far as we know, as far as current day medicine can determine, the cause of my fatigue is either psychological or could be diazepines. I don't want to go into specifics too much, Alevi, but yes, they did. Those were part of the 7. And yeah, Lyme, a whole bunch of stuff that they tested for. But yeah, I was actually surprised when she was like, I want to test you for mono. But that all came back okay. So I appreciate your concern. So what did we learn tonight? Woody Allen is a piece of shit, and don't watch his movies or support him. The Canon EF L series f1.2 50mm is an incredible lens that does really neat stuff to point lights and to defocused areas. Like, that's just such a beautiful defocus right there. I could just stare at it all day, but I shan't. Blood work was okay. Played opening of a furniture store. Matthew McConaughey should probably stick to acting. I have a set of ears on the desk with which to do things with. Goopy. That's a great way of saying it. Goopy. And we'll probably go the route of Gwyneth. I don't know. They're medical ears. They're about 1 1/3 size ears, so they're significantly bigger than human ears. But I don't know whose ears they're modeled on. I think there are, no guests tonight. I mean, we're already at over 3 hours and I'm pretty tired. Yes. Oh my God. So if you watch, actually, I'm glad you brought this up. Let's do this. Gotta see Matthew McConaughey's his YouTube channel. Okay, let me tell you something about it. The first thing that really struck me about it, now I'm excited again. So I saw his welcome to my channel video, right? And I was like looking at it really closely, and I was like, are those glasses an Instagram filter? Like, I could have sworn that he was wearing Instagram filter glasses. But he's not, because then I saw the glasses in other videos and other videos that he has and other interviews that he's done. And I was I'm staring at these glasses and they just look so unreal. So why don't we take a moment here, if we can, and watch Matthew McConaughey's welcome to my channel video. Let's see if I can do this without screwing everything up. I want to see. Need a new one. Oops, don't go there. That's showing all my secrets. How do I show my... Okay. Here we have Matthew McConaughey in his pretty awesome glasses. Like, look at those glasses. What the? I don't get it. I don't understand. All right. Hopefully we can get audio on this too.
All right, all right, all right. Yes, the first 3 words this young man ever said on film. Thank you. Yes, McConaughey here, and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. It's a destination where I'm going to share who I am, who I'm not, what I believe in, what I don't, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, along with some approaches to life that I've found useful
The glasses
and
look fake.
constructive along the way. Prescriptions in the art of living that have helped me navigate this rodeo we all live in, and even a bunch of bumper stickers that I've seen, heard, gathered, and stolen along the way over my last 51 years here. Hopefully it's going to be all killer, no filler, with some raps and rhymes that can help you get back on time, put a little reason to your rhyme, some food for thought with a sip of wine. Bring your funny bone. Don't be afraid to bend a knee, and join me in the chase to be more me, with your chase to be more you. Because what else are we really here to do? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell to be notified when I post a new video. Check out the links in the description and some of the projects I'm going to be working on. I am looking forward to connecting with y'all. So in the meantime and all times, just keep living.
My God. Some bumper sticker. We got some rhymes and we're going to have a good time. Got some rhymes and laughing times and a glass of wine and just keep living. And it's going to be great. So that's what you can expect. If you head on over to Matthew McConaughey's channel and, take things a little easy. Take her easy. Get her done. Take her easy. Get a pair of those glasses, because I think that's the first step. You have to have a pair of those glasses if you want to. Yeah, isn't it? This is like, you think that you identify actors with, the people or the characters that they portray, and then you're kind of broadsided by, although he is kind of doing, Dazed and Confused. I don't know, man. Uncle vibes. So, yeah. He does kind of want to be the dude. There's only one dude. I feel like that's a disservice to Malcolm Gladwell. I mean, yes, Malcolm Gladwell is populist, but come on. I appreciate the sentiment there. Upset that he's upbeat. I have no problem with someone being upbeat. But, I mean, he's corn dog. Pleasant. I don't know. Maybe we're overly cynical, perhaps. To me, that smacked of disingenuous pseudo-optimism. And, I mean, he was clearly reading from a script as well. So, I don't know. Didn't do it for me, Wabob. Sorry. But anyway, thank you all for coming along tonight. I think I'm going to call it an evening, try to get to sleep. And hopefully we'll see you all before next week. I'd like to stream more, but I just don't think it's going to be Conspiracy Against the Human Race. I think I'm going to change tack. I'd love to find a new game that I can start playing with y'all. So, suggestions, then please let me know. And other than that, hope you all have a good night and sleep well and take care of yourselves. And remember, if you take some bumper stickers and pop them up, and you got to live by them. All right. Sweet dreams.